Okay, okay, okay. So we have more Diablo 4 news, and at this point, I am just happy to play again. There seems to be a huge wave of people who are overzealous about complaining. Like they are so eager to criticize what there isn't. But I'm willing to recognize that there are people giving it good praise too. But it seems like there's like a 60-40, like 60% of it is criticism in a this is what I want type of way. And I think it's valid. And the 40% seems to be generally understanding that it is a beta. I just want to say, like, the people who are just like foaming at the mouth for leaks and uh, additional comments and dev and balance and changes are going to have a miserable 2 months because maybe not a miserable 2 months. They're gonna have this over anxious nail biting 2 months, and the game's gonna come out and they're gonna rush through the game. They're gonna be like, now what, now what, now what, and then the devs are gonna be like, oh, we have this plan, and then they're gonna be like, now what, now what, now what, and it's like there is other there's other ways to show excitement than to you know just complain about the game. I get it. People get obsessed. I understand, but like you should you should be happy that we at least get a chance to play it, bro. At least you're alive to play the game. Be happy you can play it. No cap. Let's go.
Alright, so we got a lot of news coming for Diablo 4, including a brand new interview with the game's director on Q's class battle.
Name of the video is also Diablo 4 Dev Breaks the Silence, new updates on dungeon design, class balance, and more. Because I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. But just in case you can't.
Balance, dungeon design, and a lot more thanks to Eurogamer. Also, a better look at what to expect in the open beta dropping in a couple more days, including fixes, so let's dive right in. But Diablo
Huh?
4's hype level is off the charts. We've seen over 1 million players confirmed for the early access alone, which is quite wild to think about, as this is just for the hardcore peeps who already bought the game or paid for the codes. And it looks like for
I don't think you have to be hardcore to be excited for if you wanted to play the beta. I wouldn't say I'm hardcore. I just love the genre and I wanted to play something new. That doesn't really make me hardcore, but it's 1 million is a good metric, I believe, for a beta. Let's see how much happens this weekend. Probably way more.
For Blizzard, they've achieved what they wanted, which was to stress test the servers so that they can better prepare for when the game truly comes out. According to Rod Ferguson, general manager for Diablo 4, there have been a number of big fixes over the past weekend that specifically address the long queue times and server instabilities. Furthermore,
Cool.
this was a way for them to prepare for the likely much larger open beta coming up, and then finally the release day, so that any issues found now will be a lot smoother at launch. And indeed, that's what I noticed too, especially in the final early access day. I noticed that queues were pretty much completely gone and stability was much better compared to Friday night when it all started. So if
Yeah, I got off work, played, tried to get in queue Friday night. Took me like 20 minutes. I didn't DC though, but I imagine anyone else like before then had a terrible time.
any issues arise this Friday, expect them to be fixed really soon after. Of course, the good news here is that Blizzard doesn't want these queues either, and ideally on launch day there won't be any, so the plan here is for us to just be able to log in and play right away. However, they also talked about
That's
the
the
butcher
plan.
encounter and some of the other stuff present in the beta, which I found really interesting, especially this one, which was one of the highlights of the beta. Actually, something I like to see more of, and it looks like Blizzard is totally on board with adding more of these encounters in Diablo 4.
Which is good because it caught me by surprise when I saw it. I didn't even realize what it was, and then I was like, "Oh snap!" And I think this is the type of thing that you could add to the dungeons without overhauling all of them. If you could just add interesting encounters or different incentives to then just clearing and collecting, it would be good. It would make dungeons make you want to do them.
So according to the game's director Joe Shelley, one of the things that can be really fun is changing up the player's goal at any given moment, and the
I
treasure
agree.
goblin does that by running off with a pile of loot that you really want, so you're likely to opt into the extra danger to get it. And the butcher does that by ambushing you and creating a situation where you're likely to run potentially into other dangers or navigate under pressure. So broadly speaking, in Diablo 4 we're looking for other ways to add that kind of gameplay that changes the player's experience on the fly. We want to add more things like that in the future as well, end of quote. They did
Nice.
clarify there is indeed a minimum level restriction for the spawn, though they did not specifically mention it, plus a few other conditions on top, but mostly this is meant to be a very random and very unexpected encounter. And I'm not sure about you, but I really loved the
Mage looks
encounter and
fun.
was lucky enough to get
Jeez.
it a handful of times over the first weekend. It was a blast for sure, but also a bit scary at first when I was under equipped for it clearly. It's
Hmm.
like the first time you're almost guaranteed to die because of how unexpected it is and
Yep.
how early it can be in your progression. Meanwhile, it's a lot more satisfying when you get your revenge a bit later once you got a build going and got
Ooh, imagine playing hardcore and the butcher spawns. That would be so funny.
some better items. I think having more randomness like this in the game can definitely help a ton, especially if it ends up being as rewarding as the butcher or the loot goblins indeed are. But for me, it's always because it lets me test my builds better if the unexpected does indeed happen. Totally let me know down below in the comments if you did encounter this and if at any point did you die during this boss fight. Another interesting
Yep, I
subject they
died.
touched on, we all know of it, the feedback on the dungeon design was a bit of a mixed bag for a lot of players, and even I voiced my concerns about it feeling a bit samey after a while, especially with a lot of backtracking to grab keys and other similar objectives to unlock the boss doors. Well, it seems that a lot of that is here to stay, unfortunately, and it is made by design. So according to the
Yeah.
game's director, again, certainly there are cases within the dungeons where you're going to get a key and then you're going to have to go somewhere else. In cases where you're going to get a key and you're running back through an area, there should be enemies that are showing up to refresh that. According to him, it's the company's goal so that players never have to run through an empty dungeon basically ever, though if we take a look at the beta, obviously that's not always the case. There were many
Hmm.
occasions when you would clear a dungeon only to have to backtrack to grab a bunch of keys or maybe some of those objects to open up doors which had you run through rooms that were already cleared.
Yeah.
Furthermore, he goes on to explain there are well over 100 dungeons
That was often because I had missed the drop or I didn't go the right way. Like I would go upper left, upper right, and then go towards the gate. So I wouldn't go upper like east, southeast. So I'd have to go all the way around to that, then go all the way back. Yeah, that did get annoying. But it was mostly due to my own like not exploring it the first time go around, I guess.
in the full game, but in the beta what we're seeing is just a fraction of it, about
Ooh,
20%
fraction.
of the overworld. One of the design decisions we made is we wanted the dungeons, an individual dungeon, to have certain properties about it that were consistent and tied to that dungeon and that place in the world, so that when you go into it, it's not just drawing out a raffle of all the elements, there are some things about it that are consistent.
So that means Act 2 dungeons will be different than Act 3 dungeons, and then that'll be different than Act 4. Huh. That's something.
He mentions. So no, I would not keep any hopes high that anything will be changed in this regard by launch day. Not only is this by design, but there's not even enough time to make such a drastic change up until then. Even more so, from the same interview, it seems that Blizzard are mostly going to address
But like I said, this is smart because now they know that they can just put it in the pipeline. They can be like, oh well, after season 1 we'll have this and rehaul dungeons, and if the game kind of, I'm not gonna say flop. I don't think it'll flop. But if the game is kind of not received well for the end game for whatever reason, for this or that, they can kind of pump life back into it by having a quick fix to a problem people didn't like at the beginning.
this via the end
Just
game
3D thinking.
mechanics such as the Nightmare Dungeon modes, in which you're going to be using sigils as modifiers to dramatically modify them according to the same interview. Though players who already played the betas that included that endgame content have already expressed concerns that was not enough either, and these modifiers appeared a lot more superficial than the interview makes it seem. According to one user on Reddit who played through the endgame beta, most of these involved percentage changes to the damage you dealt or received, stat
Here are some of the things you can expect. You do X more damage, you gain killing a monster up to 10%. I don't like caps like this. Like up to 10%, bro. Let it go up to 100. Your status increased by X. Monsters do X more damage. Monsters take excess damage. Monsters attack slow players. When monsters die, they sometimes leave behind a thing that explodes. Hmm. I don't know. I would have to play it for myself, cause if you extrapolate anything, you can make it sound boring. Like it's really not hard to make it sound boring. Like it's so easy to make anything sound boring. So I would have to play for myself and see.
increases or decreases and monster attacks applying different debuffs such as slow, reduced dodge chance, or sometimes exploding upon death.
Like what is an ARPG? Make character. Go to zone 1. Clear zone 1. Use gear you got from zone 1 to clear zone 2. Clear zone 2. Use gear you got from zone 2 to like come on, bro. Like don't be that guy. Don't like why? I mean, I guess you can be that guy because it's Reddit. People on Reddit do stuff like that because they like to get upvotes. Like that's whack to me.
None of which are going to change that experience in any significant way, except maybe adding a layer of difficulty or not on top. If anything, you'll still have to grab the keys, carry pedestals, or kill all enemies in a dungeon before you're able to proceed, no matter what affixes you're getting on them on top. I've seen other interesting quick fixes that could in theory work, such as for example the pedestals that you need to return back at the boss door, and the quick fix according to a user's view is to allow us to carry multiple of them at the same time. This makes it so that if we run into one object and then find another one before we can drop the original one off, we don't have to backtrack all the way back to it and just like grab them all and bring them back to the boss door, which actually sounds like a pretty good theory, and I'm not sure why it doesn't work, though I'm pretty sure that Blizzard might have an explanation for it, such as it being too heavy to be carried. Or maybe even better, to spice things up, why not make that object to attract a lot of like enemies from around the dungeon and have us swarm with enemies so that we don't have a lonely walk back at the main objective. I would definitely love to get that, and maybe it's an even nicer way to farm monsters and get the loot and the XP. Another one is for the kill all monsters in the dungeon, which personally I found to be the most annoying because always I had one or two groups left in some corner of the dungeon that I didn't even know of. So a quick fix suggested here is to get a kill a percentage of monster objective instead, kinda like a progress bar, which actually the game already features. So this will dramatically reduce the risk of backtracking or searching for one or two remaining monsters. And we're seeing other suggestions here. It seems that the general consensus is that these mechanics are boring as they are, and it's just level 25. I cannot imagine what will be by level 100. Even more so, what will happen with some of the other dungeons in the other zones. From the wording, it seems that Blizzard might have different mechanics for them, but even in that case, it might just be like a couple, maybe a
I mean, I don't understand. Like, where does all the assumption come from? Like, I am totally lost. I didn't have none of those thoughts while playing. I was just like having fun, exploring my character. I talked to like one guy about it. Me and Gray, we were just talking about gear and stuff, story. I'm sure he explored the world, some of the lore. I enjoyed the cutscene. What? What's with the harp and all the assumption of like, oh, it's gonna be the level 1 to 25 experience is gonna be the same from level 26 to level 20 the level 50, assuming that's the max. Like, are they just afraid that they're gonna hit level 50 in 1 2 days and then they're not gonna have something interesting to do based off the gear that we got? Like, I don't know. It's a beta. I don't know. I don't know, bro. It's like complaining about a demo. The game is not out yet. I can see if the game was out, but the game is not out.
handful at most that we're gonna quickly grow tired of. So yeah, that's how it's going to be moving forward. But in any case, expect more balance changes. And this was one of the more interesting topics they talked about a bit later on. A lot of changes coming to your favorite classes, including buffs and possible nerfs as well.
Dang, nerfs
Controversially
already.
goes on to mention that certain things like the Barbarian's Hammer of the Ancients feel a bit underpowered
And that was a skill I had. I actually liked the skill, but I had it primed a very certain way. I thought the skill was nice.
at the moment, while Frost Sorcerers are pretty strong, and I think that's really an understatement. Arcalash also for the Sorcerer is a little weak right now and so on, so expect these to change in the future. Sorcerer definitely felt like the headrunner of the beta in terms of mob clearing potential and like even the boss fights in general, though the rogue wasn't too far off either. What I really appreciate is that they're finally showing some love to barbarians. This was one of the classes that I leveled up last, but I'm glad I finally did because once I got a build going and reached 25, it got some really interesting concepts in there, like the whirlwind build with the tornadoes is definitely awesome against enemies and looks very satisfying, and I also like the rend plus thorns mechanic against bosses to make
Yeah,
them
I like that.
basically slap themselves to death.
I
However,
like
it's
that a lot.
obvious that this is very early character progression and in no way representative of the true endgame when things might change with every single
I
level.
might make that
Again,
build for
giving the
real.
Barbarian as an example, this class has access to the most amount of weapons, so endgame wise they'll have the most amount of legendary affixes. Who knows
That's what I was thinking. I was like, cause you get 2 daggers, a pole arm, and another like an axe or something, bludgeon. So you could, and they still get like the normal stuff. Like they would have like the craziest things going for them. That's why I was like, yo, I might have to go barb.
they might even be the best class of them all, but it might also be different. Of course, looking forward to the Druid and Necromancer classes in the following open beta too, so if you want to stay up to date with everything Diablo related, including build guides, totally subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Huh. Interesting. I just don't understand.
Alright,
Oops. I just don't understand what's up with the hostile assumptions that the game is gonna play just like the beta 1-to-1 ratio. I would say there's probably gonna be like a 0.5-to-1 ratio. Like the pacing is gonna be there, but you obviously have way more. I don't know, man. It's interesting that so many people are so eager to. I get it. It's about obsession. I get it. It's okay. I get it. Anyways, tomorrow's the day. We'll find out. We'll play tomorrow. So let's see what happens tomorrow. I'm looking forward to playing again. And yeah, if you're looking forward to playing, let me know. I'm just saying, I might have to. I'm thinking Druid because I know everyone's gonna go Necromancer. Sometimes I just want to be different. Even though I'm gonna play Necromancer too and do another barb. We'll see. Anyways, that's the video. Take care. Tell someone you love them and appreciate them. See you guys in the next video. Peace.